much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you about the work we're doing in the NHS supply chain to deliver essentially what is outstanding healthcare through the NHS in England. So probably context is important for those people who don't know a great deal about the NHS supply chains organisation. Healthcare across the NHS in England is a fantastic service focused on local people. And it's focused on taking care of the people within communities, within regions, within different settings. But it makes a fragmented system. It means that our care is focused on the needs of the patient, not necessarily how to maximise the value from that national bit that sits behind the national healthcare systems. And that's one of the roles we play. So we, as the NHS supply chain, are a national body working across all of those 200 plus different trusts, those 42 different integrated care systems, ensuring that every pound that's spent by the government through taxation is spent wisely, and that all of the patients everywhere can receive outstanding products, outstanding services in delivering their care. We physically buy, store, move products around the UK, and there's around £6.5 to £7 billion a year spent on those medical devices, consumables, and diagnostics. So incredibly complicated supply chain. And like most, we were an organisation that was set up in a different time. We were set up when there was more stability around the world. There was a different set of focuses, different set of objectives for the organisation. And over the last 2 years, certainly, post-pandemic, over the last 5 years, as the organisation has grown and understood more and more about what's needed from us, we've decided we need to be something fundamentally different. It's not going to surprise you that the world is a very different place. We've got geopolitical instability, we've got a war on the edge of Europe, we've got challenges around material supply, we've got inflation, and we've got no new normal. We're moving into a time where we're not expecting there to be a year in the future that looks just like another one. We're moving into a time when agility and flexibility in our supply chains, in our commercial thinking, and our organisation are going to be absolutely fundamental to deliver that critical outcome, which is exceptional patient care. That's what we live for. Now, from a procurement perspective and a supply chain perspective, this can be made quite easy. We go, well, look, the world around us has always been a changing one, and actually as a profession, we've done a really good job of understanding where some of those opportunities are. And over the last 20 years, we've had offshoring of sourcing activity, we've integrated global supply chains together, and we've done all that in the context of the risks that we see and the risks that we manage. I think my argument is that balance has changed. My argument is the decision we made 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago in some cases, that the risk was tolerable around the supply chain, that actually we can accept the risk that products don't arrive because actually we can have such confidence we can mitigate it through different ways. And those mitigations were relatively simple. We held stock of stuff, we had agreements with suppliers, but they were all based on if I pushed hard enough, if I shouted loud enough, if I paid enough, I would be able to receive the things that I was looking for. Now, reality over the last 4 or 5 years has shown that's just not the case. And as we reassess what that risk is in the organisation, and we decide how much risk we can tolerate and which of our mitigations and our controls really work for us, we've said we recognise we've got to do something different. It means we've asked the organisation to focus in a very different way. We've said, actually, rather than just designing a supply chain for a sunny day, how do you think about your different scenarios? How do you come up with your plans for your worst case, for your reasonable worst case, for a case that's unexpected but foreseeable? And how do you test and challenge the solutions that are designed by the organisation are fit for purpose? And that builds further pressure into the organisation. It raises challenges between our commercial teams and our supply chain teams. How do we provide assurance to the healthcare system that we will always be able to provide the products whilst not expending huge amounts of resources and creating cost that means we'd have to divert money from frontline care? And money is one of those things that I can absolutely guarantee we will never have enough of. The organisation has focused incredibly hard over the last 5 years to drive down the cost of products, the cost of consumables, the cost of diagnostics, to make them more available across the NHS. We know that with inflation, the ability for the system to buy all the products and all the goods and all the services that it wants to deliver exceptional patient care will be a challenge and will continue to be a challenge into the future. I think there's no amount of money that we could put towards healthcare that we couldn't spend, but it's a question of how do we ensure we're spending every penny of it wisely. So we've set the team the challenge, and we've said, you now know that the world outside us is different. You now know that the healthcare system that we operate in is different. You know the expectations on our organisation, both inside as we look at each other as a team and say what can we be as we grow up, but also outside looking in are different. So fundamentally, we're going to have to change as a company, going to have to change as an organisation, and change in the way that we interface with the breadth of the healthcare system. And we've started with a really simple idea, and it's not a new one. Make everything as simple as you possibly can, and be able to explain how the decisions that you make support the enhancement of your procurement capabilities, the enhancement of your supply chain capabilities, use data to drive great decision-making, and support healthcare. If it does those 5 things, we're going to be doing a good job. If it doesn't do those 5 things, we're probably not doing the right stuff. And giving the organisation really simple prioritization techniques to let them have freedom then to innovate, to challenge, to look at their own ways of working, their own solutions, their own outcomes, but ask themselves a simple question of, are they the really important one we should focus on, is critical to us. So we've said, look, we're going to be one NHS supply chain. And this is where it goes from saying, the world's a different one, what are we going to do, to actually what are the focus areas that we have to have as an organisation going forward. We recognise that the NHS will always be focused on regionalised, exceptional patient care. So what are we going to do to integrate the system together and engage in a different way? Well, the first one starts with our people. I've got no apology that I'm willing to invest pretty much anything in my people to grow their capabilities, to broaden their experiences, and give them the opportunity to contribute. The health service as a whole is a people-led business. Yes, we use technology. Yes, we've got infrastructure. Yeah, that's fantastic. But ultimately, there's a patient at the other end. And the ability to connect to that patient is absolutely fundamental. And the role of our people and our teams will always be key to it. So we're investing in their professional accreditations. We're working across the rest of government to understand what best practice in the public sector might look like. But we're also engaging across industry to extract all the brilliant ideas that other people have had over the last 5 years and make sure we're making the most of them. We're working with partners who are just willing to share with us, even in some cases our own suppliers, who are saying, we might be a supplier, we've had this brilliant idea, we think it will benefit the rest of you. So those new partnerships, new ways of working have been hugely valuable for us. I think redefining where we sit in this puzzle has been really key. It's not just about building our people, but explaining what that role is that we can do. Recognizing that in any complex system, you've got to be able to describe really, really clearly what you want people to be accountable for and how you want them to behave and how you want them to deliver. And part of our operating model, as we've brought the organisation together, has been focused on those principles. How do we simplify it? So we've gone from 8 separate teams to one centralised organisation who have common goals, common objectives, and can work together to build strength. We've gone from having outsourced partners delivering services for us to rebalance what those relationships look like, taking more accountability in the centre for some activity and then giving some away at the same time, managing risk in a different way than we've done before. We've done some of the traditional stuff. This is a new site in the northwest where we've invested in some additional capacity across the network. But it's not just space to store stuff, it's space to provide different services to the care setting. What can we do away from the front line that frees up clinical time, that frees up the opportunity for people who really, really care and are brilliant at looking after patients to look after patients? How do we take the pain away from frontline operations to let them focus on what they should be really, really good at and take some of those responsibilities ourselves? So we're now in new distribution centres. We're looking for more added value services, not necessarily things that other people haven't done in other industries, but by listening to the other industries to learn what they've done. Use some of those great ideas. I'm very lucky we've appointed some fantastic non-executive directors to the company, and they've brought with them ideas and perspectives from other industries that can truly drive us, and they're driving us in a fantastic way. We are investing in technology. We're not just investing in technology for ourselves, though. We're investing in technology that supports our customers that we work with in those trusts and driving up their capabilities. We recognize that we can have the flashiest, most automated supply chain solutions in the world that provide us end-to-end visibility, but then at the point of consumption, when it goes into the back door of a hospital, there's no point in getting lost. So how do we make sure the whole system works together to drive one clear picture of what we want as we grow up? We're also making sure that all of those people that are adjacent users have got the tools they need. We recognize that the cataloging of product that we do isn't just done for someone to go and buy a product. Actually, it's used for research. It's used as a way of creating a library of information. That means when a clinician's looking for a different type of material to provide a different type of procedure, they can collect that information in a really simple way. So again, we've said, look, we can take more responsibility here. Not just can we provide you with a catalogue of all the products you might need, but we can provide you with insight around how you can use them, what the outcomes of using them may be, where they're made, and how we can provide you assurance around the labour standards associated to them, or the environmental impact associated to using them. And we're taking more and more of that responsibility into the centre, again, to free up that time on the front line for the work they're needing to do. Now that's redefined what value is for us. We have a horrible saying in the NHS. We talk about value-based procurement. And I believe truly that all procurement is value-based. It just depends on your definition of value. And whilst 5 years ago our definition of value was buy things that are of lower cost to us today, our definition of value has got much, much broader. It's now about how can we work to support workforce efficiency in the NHS? How can we make capacity for our colleagues? How can we make infrastructure capacity a real thing? How can we free up space within a care setting to care for more patients? So how can we support the operational challenges of running hospitals? How can we do far more from our procurement and supply chain skills that contribute truly to the purpose of the organisation that we exist to support? It's a completely different mindset. I get back to that investment in our people. Our people have to recognise this is not purely a job of get me the product and make sure it's available at the lowest cost, but also make sure it's the right product that has the right impact as a positive for the health system as a whole. It's a different challenge for our teams. So we've had to give them different skills, different capabilities, different tools, different ways of working, different stakeholders to engage with. They have to have different conversations with people they've spoken to for years about one topic and now move to another. So we know we've got to invest and give them time to grow and develop through this as well. Now, because we have this national responsibility for the system, and because we're happy to take on responsibility, it means that we're also leading in other topics. And I think the procurement and supply chain world can and absolutely does drive around sustainability, around the ESG agenda. And we, from a health and care perspective, have this responsibility to make sure that labour standards around the world are being driven up. It's fundamental to us that the environment that we operate in is a safe one. It's at the heart of what we do to make sure that the environmental impact of the decisions we make isn't negative anywhere, because all of those things drive a greater need for healthcare. And what we're trying to say is actually we've got to mitigate that need for healthcare. So our decision making isn't purely based on local point of care decisions. It's based on that total impact to the system. And you've got to be able to use that national leverage, that national insight, and bring together fantastic stakeholders with keen interests. And some of them not core to their roles, but just because they're really smart people who can help us and contribute to our mission to have a net zero supply chain, that we can provide assurance that there are no labour standards abuses anywhere across our supply chain, that we can work with suppliers to look at their investments across the UK to ensure that we're creating a social value agenda, not just a cost agenda. Again, different asks on our teams, more complicated questions to answer, more support they need to be able to fulfil the breadth of their role. But finally, I'll leave you with this one. These people are the ones we're here for. It's a personal thing. When anyone joins the NHS supply chain organisation, you sit down and you say to them, so why do you want to be here? and they give you a story of their own times they've touched the health service, their parents that have been cared for, their sisters or their brothers that have had problems, their community they work in, they recognise that the things that they do every single day help to improve their lives, other people's lives, and lives of taxpayers across the country. So we kind of open every day with a bit of a mission. Why would we not do everything we can possibly do to make it better? The sense of purpose that we have is enormous. The opportunity is far, far greater than that. And I'm trying to unlock that for the whole of our organisation, for the benefit of all of you and everyone else that's not here today. So that's everything I wanted to say, but I would welcome any questions from anyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Right, we'll take, I know I've got plenty of questions, but that is my role. And any questions from the room? Or shall I will crack on. Okay then. The first question I would jump to is the balance between running what are actually very hyperlocal services and supporting hyperlocal services from a very wide procurement point of view. So, the one NHS sort of approach. How do you balance the two? Is it a challenge?
Oh, it's a massive challenge. We've got to try and explain to ourselves at times that our responsibility is to support local care, but use all the tools available to us to achieve it. Now, if you're in a region in the northeast of England that has a certain set of industries, you can't create your own micro supply chain around you that can support the breadth of everything you need in healthcare. There's 630,000 products available for use every year. 147,000 products and services are consumed on a 3-year rolling basis. This is a vastly complex, globalized supply chain. But if you can work together with your partners in local regions around you, or you can work at a national level, you can all create opportunities for your local communities to take part in healthcare. And we can see that future of collaboratives that exist across the country that can look at what best practice looks like, can work on partnerships with each other, are a huge tool for us to unlock value for everyone. And it's that broader definition of value. And it's every meeting you almost need to start with what is going to be important in this project, because it's not the same 10 things that were important last time. And it does move from time to time, and you've got to have that agility to work with it. But all of it comes down to fantastic decision-making from people engaging and working with other people in delivering the interest of a patient.
And how's technology played a role in this? Has that been a key factor in actually trying to find this, the value that you spoke about?
So technology is a huge part of our plans for improvement. I think we have a fantastic organisation that's done what it does really, really well. It has a problem when you say, look, we want to do something slightly different. The ability to modernise quickly is one we struggle with, because we've got the inflexibility of having older technology available to us. So we're in a modernisation programme at the moment ourselves, but we're also connecting the bridges across the system through better technology. We're lucky that NHS England are looking at a federated data platform to draw all sorts of information together to give you a macro view of performance across the system. It gives us tools to leverage. The problem as we implement the new technology is it creates new skill requirements in the teams, and again, it's a different ask on them. So technology in the way we make decisions, hugely important. Also technology in the way we operate. I think there's the ability to continue to grow and continue to scale as an organisation without having to add more and more to the cost base, if we're just smart in the way we do it. And I'm very lucky I've got 4 or 5 super clever people doing apprenticeships at the moment around artificial intelligence and machine learning and things, and we're able to deploy them in the organisation to say, actually, where does that use case sit? Where is that future opportunity for us? And as they're coming together to talk about it, they're giving challenges to some of us who don't know so much about it to say, I think if we do this differently, we can deliver this better outcome, and I'll tell you why. And it's that passion that they bring, it's that purpose they bring, that's something we've got to make sure we hook our train to the back of and let them run.
And finally, I'll finish on it's a look back on the pandemic, I suppose, because I'm not wanting to focus on the headlines, the traditional headlines. I'd like to look at it more from a procurement and supply chain point of view. What are the main sort of learning opportunities there have been, sort of looking back on it a couple of years later?
I think no one expects the reasonable worst case scenario. I think that scenario planning work that we now do is really valuable to us as an organisation, and it changes the tram lines of what could the future look like. we've got to balance the affordability of designing infinite solutions with the likelihood of them happening. I think that changed view on what risk looks like has helped to inform the breadth of opportunity. But really what we learned is you can't have 200 different organisations across England all competing with one another for supply of critical products when they really need it. And what it's done is it's built the community in the right way, and it's built a common focus and a common goal that actually, as we design those solutions over the next 10, 15, 20 years, actually we all get buy-in earlier. So this all comes down to stakeholder engagement, understanding the need, designing solutions that are really going to work, testing them, implementing them really, really well. The basics that you'd have asked anyone to have done 10, 15 years ago, I think it's just sharpened our focus on what some of those might look like.
Okay, I could ask you plenty more questions, but one thing I've learned from hosting these kind of events, if you keep people from their lunch break, occasionally there's a ride. So I'm not going to push into that right now. So Andrew, thank you ever so much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.